next speaker is Kat Kariner, who's come up from Sydney today. Kat has said to me several times that she's not a feminist, and of course I am. And my response to Kat is, well, I don't care if you're not a feminist, because I'm going to pick you over most of the women who call themselves feminists to be with me on the barricades. So, Kat is a founder and spokesperson for LGB Defence Australasia. She collaborated with others to establish the Active Watchful Waiting Association and established the website Lost Women's Rights, and I'd commend Kat for those pieces of work. Kat provides technical and other support to a number of gender-critical groups through the country, and she'll speak today on the impact of sex self-identification for lesbians. Thanks, Kat.
So I was lazy, in a sense, because... Is it? Is that it? Yep. All right. So when Anna asked me to talk, I had no time to make a talk. But what I had done is organised a number of women from Coalition of Activist Lesbians, myself, LGBT Defence, and LGBT Tasmania. I organised them to go and meet up with politicians, and we put together little scripts together, plus a story, so that they could actually go and see one after the other, and they've seen 29. So I thought, hold on, I'll use that. And I'll comment that we're going to be doing some more. This one will be on the impact of transgender on children. So I'm just going to plug that for the other people who would like to do that. We'll create scripts, we'll give you stories, but we'll educate the politicians all around Australia, and that's going to be a big drive for what we're going to be doing. Okay, so firstly, it's important to understand, if you haven't been in this movement before, that when you hear the term LGBTQ+++, we find people assume a homogeneous or united group. However, LGBTQ+ is referring to two different groups and concepts. The LGB represents same-sex attraction or sexual orientation, and the T and the Q, the trans and the queer, represent gender identity, a subjective feeling of being male or female. Gender identity ideology or queer ideology is promoted by organisations like Equality Australia, ACON, Rainbow Health Australia, and other members of an international lobby group, ILGA. And that's an important thing to know, that this is not a one-off thing. This is an international project that is coordinated and orchestrated and works very closely and powerfully together. And they work collectively to push gender identity ideology into the law and federal, state and local government policies through diversity and inclusion audits, also education policy throughout Australia. For those of us who are same-sex attracted, their ideology is a threat to the victories for equality that we, lesbians, gay men, bisexuals and women fought so hard for. So I want to we cover 4 major points. The right for lesbians to have full participation in public life, the right for gender non-conforming children and young people to live authentic lives and not be pressured to be trans. And we also look at the bans based on conversion therapy for same-sex attraction we think are good, but any ban referencing gender identity harms the youth of the LGBT community, those on the autistic spectrum, and troubled, vulnerable youth with mental health comorbidities like depression, anxiety, or have suffered trauma or abuse, etc. What we want when we're talking to the politicians is we want clear definitions of homosexuality, clear definitions of heterosexuality, bisexuality, woman and man be put back in law to stop the erasure of rights of LGBT and women. So you understand this is very much about language. So number one, we want reinstatement of female-only safe spaces. We lesbians deserve the right to participate in public life and the means to meet life partners. This is made possible by the existence of female-only safe spaces, including change rooms and restrooms where lesbians can undress, shower, or use a toilet free from male gaze or male violence. When lesbians can access female-only safe spaces, our risk of victimization goes down and our comfort level goes up. We deserve the right to create our own lesbian-only safe spaces. And by the way, just in Victoria alone, Nicole Phillips noted that 100 lesbian spaces have gone down to 2. Where am I? Yeah. And hold lesbian-only events and to have men, heterosexuals and bisexuals respect our boundaries. When a state dictates that lesbians have to have males in their dating pool, the state is pressuring lesbians to be straight. Lesbians aren't hurting anyone by having our boundaries or by enjoying our relationships. When the state or the queer, and I call them the transgender diverse community, let's just cut the LGBT out completely, and activists pressure lesbians to try heterosexual sex or to unlearn our homosexuality, it's simply regressive. I heard this back in the 70s, you know. Lesbians should not be coerced into straight dating to comply with outdated attempts to change our sexual orientation. That is conversion therapy. Thank you. It was little, I want more of a yeah. Thank you. In Tasmania, Jessica Hoyle's request for a lesbian-only event was rejected. It was to be a social occasion created for lesbians to be entertained, meet and form relationships. It was refused because it's now dictated in law that women can't associate outside the presence of males. This is so wrong. And with this event, we must in fact include males in our dating pools. Again, this is simply conversion therapy. Plus a form of state-sanctioned rape culture. At the moment, we're seeing it exercised in particular with male prisons put into women's prisons in WA, New South Wales, Queensland, and worldwide, which has led to the rape of women in prisons. Duh. It's incredibly regressive steps for the state to take to ignore the long fight of lesbian and gays to be recognised as same-sex attracted and only same-sex attracted. All past conversion therapies were based on the belief that gay men and lesbian women were wrong in their head and could be coerced or medically or psychologically treated to become straight. Banning female-only, I'm hoping I'm on the right page, yep. Banning female-only safe spaces excludes lesbians from public life and means to meet life partners. We can build a truly inclusive society by empowering lesbians to maintain our personal boundaries and the boundaries of our community. Okay, number 2. Lesbians have a right to live authentic lives and not be pressured to identify as men. One of my friends was mentioning that among the young lesbians group, 45 of them had trans. 45 in Sydney had trans. A lady I spoke to in California said, we can't find any young lesbians anywhere. They've disappeared. They're all trans. We have seen a push in schools and from the queer and activist lobbies for gender non-conforming youth, in particular girls, to believe they are in the wrong body. This is to conform their appearance to a heterosexual norm. If they're attracted to the same sex, a boy who would normally grow up to be gay is expected to become a trans girl. A girl who would normally grow up to be a lesbian is expected to be a trans boy. This is at the heart of gender identity ideology, making homosexuals invisible, putting them through another door to the same old closet. Living an authentic life isn't conforming to gender norms and stereotypes. It means accepting your own body, personality, and sexual orientation by accepting same-sex relationships and embracing women who don't dress to attract men. Just thinking of women I know. We empower lesbians to accept and embrace themselves and live authentic lives. When lesbians feel pressure to conform to society's expectations and stereotypes, they may turn to artificial hormones and plastic surgery, impersonating heterosexual men as means of fitting in. Instead, all lesbians should be encouraged to practice self-love, accept their same-sex attraction, and take good care of their bodies. And this is so important for the young girls. When we push lesbians to be queer and to emulate men, we deny lesbian visibility. Without lesbian visibility, young lesbians don't have role models. It's important for girls to have role models who are strong and independent, not like you. Probably like you, actually, when we get into it. But who have positive relationships with other women and who don't dress for men's pleasure. Having strong female role models teaches girls that it's okay to break stereotypes and you don't have to be born male to be happy and successful. When we embrace lesbians as women worthy of respect, we work towards true diversity by empowering women and girls to see the possibilities in their lives. Lesbian visibility teaches younger generations of women and girls that their sex doesn't determine where they go in life. They're free to live independently, dress however they want, and love whoever they choose. Lesbian visibility teaches girls that it's okay to break stereotypes. Lesbians shouldn't have to keep their sexual orientation hidden behind male impersonation to fit in. Banning female-only safe spaces excludes lesbians from public life. We cannot build a truly inclusive society if we push women and lesbians to have their personal boundaries violated and the boundaries of our community. Number 3. Okay. Conversion therapy ban based on gender identity is bad. Based on sexual orientation only is good. I'm making it really simple so it's clear to people. Okay? Self-ID laws are being pushed throughout the country and they're piggybacking also on conversion therapy ban because they go together. Self-ID laws, you'll notice, allow men who are older, they don't have to change anything. They can keep a beard, a mustache, and they still can be called women. But notice, with the conversion therapy bans, it's automatically pushed for young children to go on a medical pathway. Notice that? Self-ID is part of a gender industry. There's money in it. A young child is worth at least something like 100 to 250K. And that's not even including reparatory surgery that is done to repair the damages of surgery like phalloplasties and the scrapes that came off the arms and all that kind of rubbish. Because the vehicle for inserting mandatory gender affirmation into law is a ban against suppressing or changing gender identity. Put a hand up if anyone's actually got a real definition of gender identity. Pity you don't see anybody, but I'm just going to tell everybody, no hand has gone up. Okay. Influential transgender diverse lobby groups such as Equality Australia, Boo, and Rainbow Health Australia, Boo. ACON, Boo. -18, Headspace, Transphobe. Yep. Are persuading politicians that exploration of issues or talk therapy related to gender identity entails the same harmful practices as past conversion practices used to change sexual orientation. This is false and this is a lie. Here's the rub. Any so-called conversion therapy ban that includes gender identity is harmful to gender non-conforming, LGB, kids on the spectrum, and other vulnerable children and young people, including those affected by social contagion, autism, or have mental health comorbidities. And these days, actually, it's expanded just to young girls with a push for being neither male or female because there's a new market on non-binary. At this time, we've formed a group of detransitioners and trans and mums who are angry, really angry, and parents and teachers and health professionals, which is called Active Watchful Waiting. It was a project that spun out of LGBT Defence. And what we're doing is I'm not going to go too much into it, but what we're doing is we're making sure that detransitioners can get the support and help they can get. We are lobbying politicians. We're talking directly to doctors and to schools. We're going to stop the pipeline of conversion therapy of kids, and we're going to expose these bastards who are doing harm to children. So I just want to say to those folk out there, you're on the wrong side. We are on the side to keep kids intact, whole, their bodies unfragmented. You're on the side that is destroying them, that are making a future of sterilisation, of diseases, of a shortened lifespan. You are on the wrong side, and you are going to lose. We want to keep children and young people intact, whole, and address the root causes of self-hate, abuse, internalized misogyny, exposure to gender identity indoctrination, and internalized homophobia that gender non-conforming young people experience. Working these issues out with exploratory talk therapy is preferable to automatically put them on a one-size-fits-all pathway of drugs, hormones, and surgery. What can be done? Let's come to the end. Okay. We want the harm taken out of gender identity ideology. We want to take the guts out of it. Okay. We need clear definitions of homosexuality, heterosexuality, bisexuality, woman and man that are not tautological in logic, but based on scientific evidence, not subjective, unverifiable feelings. We can have no rights for women or homosexuals if woman or homosexuality is not clearly defined in law. We find the concept of gender identity is problematic. The word gender and gender identity was coined by a pedophilic Dr. John Money. It's been used for decades to pathologize, I hate that word, pathologize, thank you, homosexuality and non-stereotypical behaviour. The term gender hasn't a stable definition, so that makes using it coherently impossible, which is why sex-based language gives us a common language to understand each other. That's the purpose of language. Okay. The legislation needs to be amended so that sex is not conflated with gender identity in law.
Yes.
Okay. B, we do not want legislation banning conversion therapy based on gender identity for children and young people, i.e. gender affirming care. Gender affirming care is just a euphemism for conversion therapy. C, we want a statutory provision to declare that sex is a paramount protected characteristic and a halt to the presumption that gender identity displaces the protected characteristic of sex. D, we want statutory provision for funding, services and spaces that are provided for women on the basis of their sex. So normally we finish there with a bit of a story, but I was thinking out there, what are your objections? Okay, well, they might be. How much time have I got?
0.
Moving on. So one objection, but trans women are women. No. We say men, because people find that sex-based language is necessary to improve the safety and well-being of lesbians and women. Going along with the idea that men can be women, that wet is dry, that hot is cold, that dark is light, that men can be women implies that lesbians should be attracted to men. This implication stigmatizes homosexuality and promotes rape and sexual coercion of lesbians. Okay, another one. Another objection. Many lesbians transition to be their authentic selves. Our society often shames lesbians. We're right on the bottom of the pool, would you say, Helen? Yeah. Our society often shames lesbians, which can make us feel uncomfortable in our own skins. Instead of helping lesbians to work through trauma and improve our self-image, therapists often diagnose lesbians in distress with so-called gender dysphoria in order to sell them drugs and surgery. And when the medical establishment sterilizes lesbians and damages our bodies in order to make us look like heterosexual men, this is eugenics. Doctors are turning lesbians into facsimiles of men and making them dependent on Big Pharma for life. I've got lots more objections, but I have a lot more, and I put them on lostintransition.org.au. It will be awwa.org.au soon, but at the moment it's on Lost Transition. Thank you.